Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you liked the video this morning, please come in and share it. I surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, we're going to highlight the 1970 Super Bowl champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. How ironic that I'll be talking about this team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and yesterday in 2023, the Chiefs are going to be going to Super Bowl 57 and taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you like the video, please come in and share it. Also, we like to thank Bleed, Spotify, and Apple, all the platforms rely on us, 100 Yards Football, to be on their platform. And before I get started, I want to give a special thanks to my producer who makes it happen at a high level, my man, Mr. Jeremiah Long. I wouldn't be where I'm at. The gentleman took a fly on me 3 years ago, and look where 100 Yards of Football is gone. It's been very special. But let's talk about the 1970 Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to start with this. When you talk about football teams, you talk about the history of the game. This team in 1969 had a very special season. And they became the first wild card team to go on the road and win all 2 playoff games in the playoffs. And then they came into the Super Bowl as a 12-point underdog. But what I take from this team is something that's very special. And, you know, there's been a lot of serious problems that's been in the news about the HBCUs over the last month. From Deion Sanders exiting Jackson State and taking the head coaching job to Colorado, and then Ed Reed in the situation of Bethune-Cookman. Well, today, I want everybody to hear me when I talk about this team and how special it was. As I said, they had 9 Hall of Famers on their football team: Len Dawson, Bobby Bell, Willie Lanier, Curly Cup, Emmett Thomas, Jan Strenadu, Hank Stram, Johnny Robinson, and Buck Buchanan. And when you look overall, that season, that team was so special. But the thing that stuck out on that team, they had 14 players on HBCUs on that team. And it's something that when I think about this team, I think about Memory Lane by Minnie Riperton. I stumbled on this photograph. It kind of made me laugh. It took me way back down memory lane. Well, all the negativities came towards the HBCUs over the last, I want to say, month. Let's stop for a minute and honor them 13 players that's on their football team. All them 13 players was from the HBCUs, 14 actually. One of them was on the roster, Mr. Morris Stroud, who went to Clark, Atlanta. He got a Super Bowl ring that year, but he wasn't active. But think about the impact of that. It was a very tough time in the 60s. We all know about what our history is. It's really after Martin Luther King was assassinated in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. But just think about the impact of this football team. It brought something to me that I said, hey, man, you look at all these players that played all those great black college universities. Not Alabama, not Georgia, not Nebraska. They had 13 players. Robert Holmes, Southern University. Jimmy Marcellus, Tennessee State. Willie Lanier, Morgan State. Emmett Thomas, Bishop. Brooke Buchanan, Grambling. Jim Kearney, Prairie View. Cesar Belcher, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Frank Pitts, Southern. Otis Taylor, Prairie View. Willie Mitchell, Tennessee State. Gloucester Richardson, Jackson State. Goldie Sellers, Grambling. Nolan Smith, Tennessee State. And of course, I just mentioned on 6'10", Mr. Morris Stroud, Clark, Atlanta. But that really right there is the face and the history of black college football. And with all the problems, let's stop the madness to then take a step back. Let's don't talk about so much what they're not doing to HBCUs. Today, let's go back down memory lane and talk about that football team. They have 14 beautiful young African-American players on their team. Let's talk about the defense that only gave up 13 points that season. Them 14 gentlemen was part of that football team. And I'm going to make it to my duty today. When you look at all the great receivers in this game, from Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley, to Terrell Owens, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, to Kevin Johnson, Georgia Tech. It's a miracle that Otis Taylor's not in the Hall of Fame. So to the Taylor family, before I move on and talk about this great team and the great players from the HBCUs play on their team, I want to give kudos and honor and respect to Otis Taylor. He was the first explosive big-time receiver that I saw that can take it to the house. And go back, you can pull up on YouTube that great 46-yard reception when he broke that tackle and half-stepped it down the sidelines. And I was in the 4th grade at that time. Even though the Dallas Cowboys were my favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs were number 2. And the impact and the pride that team had with them 14 players that I took with me. Because, see, I went to an all-African-American high school, Southside High School. I'm a graduate, 1978 class, Memphis, Tennessee. But the thing about it, the majority of my teachers were the reason that I went to college. A lot of them Alcorn State graduates, Mississippi Valley State graduates, Tennessee State graduates, Grambling graduates. And I looked up to all of them. And one thing they told me, Vincent, before you go on your journey to college back in 1978, take with you the 1970 Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, they had a colorful coach in Hank Stram. Of course, they had Len Dawson, quarterback out of Purdue, but make no bones. What made that team special was some 14 players from the HBCUs. And the Hall of Famers, Willie Lanier, Buck Buchanan, Emmett Thomas. And as I just mentioned earlier, it was the first team that won all their playoff games on the road in the Super Bowl era. Beat Joe Willie Namath and the New York Jets after the Jets were coming off their Super Bowl the previous year. Went up there and beat the Chinchilla Colt man. And then they went to the Oakland Raiders and beat Dale LaMonica. And the Raiders had lost to them twice. Then they went into Super Bowl as a 12-point underdog to the mighty Minnesota Vikings and Joe Cap. We all know why. Could have been possibility. Joe Cap played at Cal. And the Chiefs had them 14 players from the HBCUs. Well, you saw what happened. They intercepted Joe Cap 3 times, intercepted the Vikings 4 times overall. Otis Taylor had a great game. California Yae Mike Garrett ran the football at a high level. That defense known as the triple stack with Bobby Bell, Willie Lanier, Jim Willie, Morgan State, Jim Kearney, peer review, a rookie cornerback that went to Tennessee State who I saw play at 6 years old, Jimmy Marcellus. Excitement at its highest level. And that's why, in my Lord, the Kansas City Chiefs, this team here is what started the respect for the HBCU football players. 14 players. And then you look what's going on around us and all the turmoil that's happened over the last month. So I want everybody in your athletic departments, if you come across this video, think about where we at and where we have progressed. This football team set the tone for us. And being proud of all these great players that came out of the HBCUs. And this team set the tone. And the great scout, Lloyd Wells. And to the organization of the Kansas City Chiefs and Mr. Lamar Hunt. I'm always going to be indebted. So while we arguing about The schools need this and that. Let's step back for a minute, people, and be proud. Be proud of what this team has done. We can work things out, but look at this team and the 14 players. Let's wake up and let's give history to the Kansas City Chiefs. Super Bowl champs of 4. And 14 great players that set the tone. And let's push Otis Taylor into the Hall of Fame. He started out a great wide receiver tradition in the National Football League. My final words today, here as I talk about this great team, the Kansas City Chiefs, I want to say this before I leave you today. Everyone knows that I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, the 901. And if everyone that knows me know how proud I am of that city. That city raised me. And I saw some great people that I was growing up in the 60s and 70s. Well, we know the situation that's happened in my hometown. It's brought a kind of like a black mark over the city of Memphis. With the situation, what has happened with Tyrese Nichols. And for the last couple of days, I said I wasn't going to really say anything, but I think today I have to on this platform because I love that city so much and where I come from. And to see where it's at right now, I just want to give a prayer to all the great people that came before me in Memphis, Tennessee, and give thanks and pray that all the native Memphians come together on this very terrible, tragic, and it's worked out. Because, see, even though right now Memphis has a bad mark and a lot of people are killing Mount City and you got CNN there, but I tell you, the only thing I know about Memphis is how I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And I can tell you this, during that time, it wasn't no better African-American city in the country. Because you want to know why? I saw African-Americans doing it at a high level at the start of the 70s. And I was honored and proud, and I was raised by some outstanding parents, Inez and Chester Turner. I saw African-Americans own cleaners. My father was a dry cleaner. One of the best that done it, Chester Turner. My uncle Edward Parson was one who did the best dry cleaners and had a limousine service. I saw other African-Americans own gas stations. I had the honor and pleasure to grow up one house over one of the greatest songwriters in the world, Mr. David Porter, with Stax Records, Isaac Hayes. And at that time, they had one of the greatest entertainers that left us early, Mr. Otis Redding from Macon, Georgia. And I saw African-American people living at a high level and growing up. It wasn't no crime. It was special. And then my childhood, growing up with 5 great friends on 763 Dunn Avenue. 4 of them went to glory. Clifton Miller, my next door neighbor. Lawrence King, who played football at Alcorn State. And the Lyons brothers, Will and Greg. And of course, the only one that's living, I'm close today. I talked to him on Saturday, Mr. Greg Porter, the son of David Porter, original songwriter with Stax Records. We grew up very, very well. And being in that city at that time in the 60s and 70s, I didn't know nothing but success and love. And people stuck together in my hometown. And then growing up as a teenager, I think about going to Overton Park. Everybody know about Overton Park on Sundays. Then I think about going out at night, the 2001 in Midtown, Place Disco, the No Name over there on Lamar Avenue. Then listening to the legend Stan Bale on K97. The great legend himself, Bobby OJ, who passed away at 10 years old following WDIA, the baseball league. My cousin, who's right now Edward Parson, attorney in Naples, Florida, watching him play third base and taking the Forest Hill Green Eagles all the way from one game to going to the College World Series and seeing a guy who carried them, a pitcher by the name of Keith Simpson, who went on to play football at Memphis State, was a first-round draft choice of Seattle Seahawks. Experiencing all that. And then at my high school, graduating in 1978, seeing Johnny Majors come to my high school when I was a senior, recruiting two of the finest football players that ever played there and went on to Tennessee, Mr. Carlton Peoples and Mark Studaway. Then watching our basketball team in my junior year come one game from going to the state led by the great Reginald Cofield. The memories I remember were special in my life. And as I moved and I came here to the Atlanta area in 1996, I'm always going to be proud and always going to be honored of my hometown. And then to my uncle Opie Turner, who became a mainstay back in the 60s at Firestone. You can find the Jet article. I'm not going to put it out there. Then the politicians, Roscoe Dixon, Alvin King, the Powell Ford family. It was great times in the 70s, man. I'm so blessed to be born in that hometown of mine, Memphis, Tennessee, in John Gaston Hospital, and have the honor to grow up in that town and have three lovely sisters, Bridget, Rhonda, and Stephanie. And my parents, one more time, Inez and Chester Turner, originally both from the state of Mississippi. I'm very, very upset what's going on in my hometown right now, but make no bones, they're going to get it corrected. And Memphis is going to be restored. As I leave you today, my final words, I want everybody in Memphis, Tennessee to pray with your families. Tell your loved ones you love them. Be proud from the 901. And always remember this, it ain't no place like home. Let's unite and bring that honor and pride back to my hometown. Elvis Presley, baby. Graceland Mansion. 1972, Larry Finch in the Memphis State Tigers. 2008, Derrick Rose in the Memphis Tigers, John Calipari. The great Keith Lee in 1985, Memphis basketball. Isaac Bruce, Hall of Famer, University of Memphis. And of course, the #1 city when it comes to barbecue. Beale Street, FedEx Forum, the Grizzlies. If you're a native Memphian today, and you're from Memphis, Tennessee, stand up and shout out the 901. Let's pray. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. I surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. Thank you once again to my producer, Mr. Jeremiah Long, for making it happen for me today. I owe him everything. If I had to say a guy was the #1 producer, he's a superstar at this level. And I want to leave you with this. The Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, when I think about the Chiefs, I think about Sly and the Family Stone. Hot fun in the summertime. Y'all be blessed here on 100 Yards of Football.